All right. And we are going lot and we're live, folks. Hello. What's up? Grapes on the Vine. Welcome to another episode of Guarsenio's Christian High School CD booklet review. Today we're talking about Me Without You's Catch for Us the Foxes, the album that taught me that I'm a little bit dyslexic. And folks, on this episode, we're bringing in a very good friend of mine, frontman of Touche Amore, Peloton salesman, Jerry Bolm. What's up?
What's up, man? I was really self-conscious at the fact that you could see the Peloton over here. I was really self-conscious about it, but now it's out there.
It's
It's
out
okay.
there.
It's
He,
okay.
he talked me into one. You know, I needed I was a treadmill guy
Yeah.
for years, but now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like, I only got so many runs
Yeah.
left in me.
Uh-huh.
I should probably not beat the shit out of my knees when I'm working out in the house. Like, it's already not the ideal experience.
You're
So
already jumping off your couch in several videos. You're setting
most
yourself
of them,
up for you gotta save those knees for the jump for the couch jumps.
100%. Yeah, I only got so much like suspension going on. But dude, all right, we are talking about Catch for Us the Foxes. Folks, we're going to change. I know the thumbnail right now is Catch Us for the Foxes because my whole life I thought that that's what this was called. I was wrong.
Okay.
I didn't read the Bible. I don't know. But you know, I got the current thumbnail that you'll have seen will be updated. It'll be all set. But today we're talking about Me Without You, which was a big band for me in high school, but not for a lot of people that I was friends with. Jeremy, how did you get into this band and then this album?
I think my story might be similar to a lot of people to where I feel like if you were involved in any sort of or had any sort of interest in like aggressive music and you ever found Bless the Martyr, Kiss the Child from Norma Jean,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you ever had swoop hair, it was just handed to you. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah,
So
I do.
yeah. So, I mean, that record was, everybody loved that record. It still sounds great. It's still a great record. And that was my first time ever hearing Aaron's voice because he does guest vocals on that record.
Right.
And that then led me to picking up A to B Life. And I fell in love with that record so quickly. I was just so taken with uh, you know, Aaron's vocal style, just kind of the overall energy of the band as a whole. But so I was like on board with
Mhm.
that record. So I was awaiting Catch for Us the Foxes for it to come out. And when it did, I remember being a bit apprehensive about it at first because it does feel like a big you know, uh dare I say like um it doesn't seem as youthful. It feels more like thought out. It feels more, you know what I'm saying? It's like the
Yes.
mature step. And I don't know that I was ready for it. And I feel like for a while there, when I first got the record, I kind of like had a hard time differentiating like a lot of the songs. Like January 1979 is like certified banger right out the gate.
Out the
Like I mean
gate.
it's track 2, but like, like that was everyone's favorite song immediately. But a lot of the songs kind of felt like they blended together, and it took me a
Mhm.
while to sort of separate that. And then once I finally did, I look at this record like the movie that maybe you don't get the first time, but then the
Mhm.
more you rewatch it, you realize it's like an actual masterpiece. That's what I felt
Oh,
like this record was.
at d I had that movie experience and experienced this album in the same year, and the movie that I had that experience with was Mulholland Drive, by David Lynch. I remember I was my brother had just moved out. We were visiting his like new house, and my dad was with us, and he was like, hey fellas, you want to watch a mystery movie? And like he sold Mulholland Drive like it was the Maltese Falcon. Like it was gonna be like I was expecting fedoras and Humphrey go like shenanigans, like
Okay.
T-Man or whatever.
Yeah.
We watched that movie. My brother, 20 minutes in, goes, "Fuck this," and like goes and does something else. I feel like I'm hate watching the movie all the
Sure.
way to the end,
Yeah.
and then at the end, I was baffled and I started complaining about the movie. I was like, what is, like, I know it's art, but like, why would you do this thing? And then slowly through uh being a little 14-year-old bitch about it, I like pieced together a narrative in my head that made me love the movie and then go down a David Lynch rabbit hole after that.
Yeah, I remember everyone telling me, "Dude, you're not gonna get it, man. You're not gonna fucking get it. You're not gonna understand this shit," kind of a thing. And I went into that movie so cocky and so confident, where I
Mhm.
feel like I even remember myself sitting on the edge of my couch, like watching the movie like this, being like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna understand this thing. And then there's the part in the movie, probably third act, I believe, maybe in the third act area, where like the thing happens where the whole movie just goes bananas.
Yeah.
And I remember being very frustrated and realizing I'm not as smart as I thought I was. It's like, okay, okay,
Yeah.
I can see why people think this is a tough one, especially on the first watch.
Oh, 100%. And but also it's just that's such a just a very my dad moment. Just showing me like real like adult art cinema when I'm like like I was bar mitzvahed a year ago. Like I'm
I mean,
fresh to being, even by Jewish standards, a man.
that's a very cool dad. I like that he kind of sold it like
Yeah.
it was going to be Clue. You know,
Totally. I think in my head, I'm like, I think you thought it was going to be Clue, or like, because he's not
yeah,
crafty like that. Like
sure,
he wouldn't try to set me up. I think he was also like, oh boy,
yeah,
this is a
yeah.
lot. I
That's
love it
awesome.
now. It was very funny because literally 10 minutes after watching it, I was like, oh, this thing's a masterpiece, and I love it.
Sure. What was your relationship with Catch for Us the Foxes like? Was that your intro record to them?
100%. Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
think I found them in a very 2004 way, which is I think I just watched the music video for January 1979 on Music Choice. Do you remember that?
I don't. What was that a music video channel or what was it?
Yeah, I feel like right when like most cable companies made families that paid for cable switched to the new boxes that had like very minimal on demand properties or whatever. They Music Choice was just like a weird little on demand thing, and I like I would flip through their like main channel because they sometimes would play like hardcore videos like a Norma Jean or whatever.
Sure.
And then through that, like through Music Choice, honestly, that weird just me alone being able to watch whatever music video I wanted, like got me into Of Montreal. It gave me a little gateway to have a bit of an eclectic taste because I kind of didn't know what I was in for. I just saw Me Without You. I was like, that's a clever little name. And I watched it and I was like, never I've never heard anyone do this. I've heard people scream over music. I've never heard just literally a guy loud reading his beautiful poetry over music before.
Totally. What really sold me on the band to make them go from like early because I saw them when they were touring on A to B Life and they played at the Troubadour here in LA.
Mhm.
And Jonah Matranga, who was the singer of the band Far, he was doing a solo thing, which he still continues to do, called One Line Drawing. They were on the show together, and Far, up until forever, was my favorite band. Like that was the band that I felt like no one really knew. They were from California, not they're from Northern California, but like they were
Right.
affiliated with the Deftones. Like it was one of those things where it's like if you got really into the Deftones, you found Far because they did certain songs together, etc. Blah blah blah. What I'm getting at is they had broken up in '98,
Right.
and I see Me Without You play, and at the end of their set, they bring Jonah up on stage and they cover a Far song. And
Oh,
I was just like, are you kidding me right now?" I was like, this is my favorite band."
yeah.
It was and you can tell that the audience really maybe that was a newer band at this point. People were there. I think Jonah was headlining. So it was I could be wrong about that. But anyway, it was like it was a niche move to do. So I was just
Mhm.
like, I am in heaven right now. This is the best thing in the entire world. And I just bought all of my stock in that band at that point.
Totally. And why I saw that at their last show, you were the guy brought up at the end of the show.
Uh, not at the
What?
end, not at the end, and I
Okay.
gotta say that I went up and I sang, and then, this person, some people are familiar with, her name is Haley Williams, she came up.
Oh,
Yeah, she came up and then
niche
sang.
pull.
Yeah, she came up and then sang, and I was like, "I'm so happy that I went first. I'm so happy that I went first." I was like, "I can't imagine,
Yeah.
just like the thud in the room of like, "Oh, this guy, okay, that's not as exciting." So yeah, I was so honored.
Yeah. How do you
Um,
follow Warp Tour Adele? Like it's not it's hard. It's too
uh,
hard.
yeah, it was really, really cool. I was so honored. I mean, so I guess I'll throw a little backstory there. We recorded our third and fourth record with a gentleman named Brad Wood, who we specifically went to because he produced Catch for Us the Foxes and
Mhm.
Brother Sister.
Yep.
Um, so huge fan of his work. He had also recorded the first Far record. Uh,
Oh, I
he'd
didn't
also
know that.
yeah, he did Tin Cans of Strings to You. He also did the first two Sunny Day Real Estate records. He did he's just like he's got an incredible discography under him.
He should. I like Guyville, Liz Fair.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he did the Liz Fair records.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
great.
he's a hell of a dude. And we found out that he had moved to because he's a Chicago guy, but was living in not far from us in the valley. So we ended up getting to do that record with him, and just like I was, all of us just got to be so excited to hear him tell stories about those recording sessions. This is long before we met those guys or anything like that. And then in 2014, Touche and Me Without You did a co-headline tour. And I,
Mhm.
again, as just like such a fan, I was just couldn't believe that that opportunity even had arose. Like if that was like for me personally, like a wow, I am getting to like literally live a dream because I this band means so much to me, you know?
Yeah, when I first heard you guys, my respectfully, the
Sure.
first influence I heard, I was like, "Oh my god, they're they're doing like a heavier Me Without You." Like this music, the way it sounds, the way like you the way your drums sound on your records, they sound like the drums. Maybe it's just the Brad thing,
Could
but
be. Yeah.
it feels very much the same. It feels like you write to have poetry kind of be first, which I love, and
Yeah. Let me
that feels like this.
let me
But
tell
please,
you, when preparing for this little chat, I was reading through a lot of Aaron's lyrics and I was just saying, like, man, no one got nothing on Aaron. Like it's
dude.
like it is absolutely unreal. Like, yeah, but you're absolutely right in hearing that comparison. Like, I think a lot of our peers are that way. Like a lot of Spew is certainly that way. That's what
Mhm.
attracted me to them when I first heard them. I was like, oh, this is like a more aggressive version of Me Without You, or like aggressive in a different kind of way.
Right.
Like you could hear the other influences that a lot of Speed was taking in, like, at the drive-in and things like that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but there's certainly similarities in, like, vocal delivery and things like that, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Um, I I want to talk a lot about the lyrics. A big and I want to we'll save that for a second because I want to get into a big thing for me with this band. Connecting with them was like I grew up like like a Jewish kid in Colorado. I didn't know a lot of other Jewish people at the time. There aren't a lot of like publicly Jewish musicians. So knowing these guys participating in the music scene that I'm involved in, that meant a lot to me. It did it like I always thought it was kind of weird. The weird thing for me is I stopped listening to them once foolishly once I was like, oh, they're on Tooth and Nail, and Tooth and Nail is like a Christian rock label, and I was a little bit freaked out by that when I first discovered that.
Sure.
But it has nothing to do with the band other than they kind of take pieces like Catch for Us the Foxes is from Old Testament, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I had made a note of that because I actually never really read too deep into that. But yeah, I guess it's verse 15 of the second chapter of the Song of Songs, and it's
Yep.
catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that spoil the vineyards.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, it was super interesting. I guess foxes are jackals. It says the foxes are associated with the obstacle of the blossoming romantic friendship or relationship. Sorry,
Yeah.
which is like wow, that's like a whole deep dive. You know, when you bring up the religious aspect, I mean that is such a theme within this band, and it always
Mhm.
has been. It's always been present in what Aaron writes, but as someone who I was raised Christian and lost my faith, you know, when I
Mhm.
was a teenager, and it never. I think this is like the kind of band that speaks to like you can easily look through that and have that not affect your listening experience at all
Yes.
because even though there's so much symbolism and so much like direct lineage to like scriptures and specific parts of the Bible, like all of this sorts of stuff, like it it never phases you because as like a non-believer because intertwined with that and in the themes that he often sings about are very relatable topics, especially to someone who's young and is dealing with any sort of depression, which like is pretty
Mhm.
commonplace for young people in period and statement. But yeah, so like it's interesting. Like some bands might have turned me off a lot quicker because their messages maybe have been more praise as opposed to
Right.
um learning something or trying to learn more about yourself or things like that. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Yeah, their use of like scripture or like pieces of different spiritual texts or whatnot are all like archaeological in a
Totally.
way where it's not really about that. He's piecing together like beautiful passages in all of these from all these different texts because he's fascinated with them and the way that the words flow together. And I think what he builds out of them feels powerful because he's taking phrases that feel timeless and connecting it to him as an individual and his experience. And I think that that's very different. And yeah, as you said, it doesn't feel like praise. Like I a thing that turned me off with a lot of like the Christian emo and screamo that was happening at this time. I'm just gonna call it emo and screamo. I know it
It's fine.
kind of isn't or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
but it kind of had that Trojan horse kind of vibe where it's like,
Yes.
are you sneaking this? Are you trying to give all these kids promise rings? What are you doing? What's the goal of this?
Yeah.
When in
I won't
reality, yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
I won't name a name, but there's although I shouldn't have any problem doing that considering they're the ones who did it, but, like, there was one specific emo band, like, very emo band that I liked a lot that as I got older, I was like, "Oh, this is like a shaming someone for having an abortion song." Like, that's fucking not okay, you know?
Oh
Yeah.
God,
So there's
what
like
what band was it?
uh,
Can I ask you? You can text
yes,
it to me.
yes, it's just it's not my place to put I mean, who knows how they've grown since then, so it's like, I don't wanna put someone
Totally.
on blast, but, like,
No, let's
uh,
not do that.
let's hope that they've grown since then.
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like I'm totally with you. Like there was a lot of stuff affiliated in those within those bands that like had messages that I was like, I don't think this is the area that I'm fucking with too much. But
Right.
Me Without You always had a level of um intellect, and
Yes.
that was what was always extremely appealing to me. I mean, reading about even today, like reading about certain aspects of a lot of these songs, I was like, it was fascinating to see how he potentially, and also it could be a lot of people's interpretations of these lyrics. I can be a little bit sensitive when someone tries to uh define what lyrics I might be saying and saying like
R-
this is what the song is about. It's like
right.
it's all just up to assumption, of course, but like I guess in Torches Together, it's like about a time he spent in a certain church community in Philly called like the Simple Way, which is
Hmm.
basically focusing on like the simplicities of life, which is so that lyric like never mind the plan making, we'll start living, and how that can be super impactful where it's like that's just a simple thought of like don't think so far ahead, like think about today, think about focus on like what's important today, and like that is such a just simple beautiful message that could be very inspiring to someone who needs the reminder of that.
Yeah, 100%. Um, and I don't, I feel like my favorite lyrics from this album are from "Son of a Widow," and I think the chorus, even though it feels religious,
Yeah,
it just doesn't. It doesn't. Like until today. I in like reading about the tooth and nail thing again, which I totally forgot about. I didn't think of it as a religious. I thought it was just I in the moment I was like, this is the most beautiful 3 lines I've ever read in my life. Like grape on the
totally.
vine, we've been gone a long time. Why not be crushed to make wine is unbelievable. I love
Yeah,
that.
and I'll say and completely admit to it that like that I personally ripped the song off on our second record. um we have a song called Condolences, which I wrote in the studio, which is like basically me more or less describing a, my own funeral sort of a situation. And I remember the my closest friends gently lower me down, like that whole part, like you can
Hmm.
see there's some similar lyrics that I may have lifted unintentionally. It was one of those things where after the record was done and I revisited this album, I was like, oopsie, that was definitely where that snuck in.
I see. I love when that happens because essentially what you're doing is what Aaron is doing to scripture. You are taking his lines and reapply his beautiful lines and or concepts and reapplying them to your own like context, your own piece, which I think is
Totally.
exact like that's what we all I do that all the time. The few times that I've had to write my own lyrics and it's it is writing lyrics. I think why I have such a reverence for this band is because that is my least favorite part of writing music, and because I'm literally in face paint. I'm a literal clown. Being vulnerable in that environment is really hard. It's really hard for me to feel comfortable doing that. Like I'll do it, I'll get the job done, but it feels weird forever for me.
Totally. Yeah, no, I completely I can yeah, you're absolutely right. I remember hearing I texted Brad just before this too, Brad Wood, producer who I
Yeah.
was talking about earlier, just like asking if he like I was like how I was curious like how long this record took to record. And I guess like they did 1 week of pre-pro and then banged it out in like I guess 2.5, 3 weeks or something like that. But I
Yeah.
remember hearing a really great story. I was lucky enough to interview Ricky on my podcast and we talked about that because Ricky is I
Oh.
mean we could devote an hour probably just to talking about Ricky because he's my favorite drummer. He's my favorite drummer. Um, and I remember hearing a really great story where they're across the street from kind of like near not across the street but like down the way a little bit from where Brad's studio is a Gelson's Market, and it's like
Right.
a grocery store chain here. And apparently, when he finished drums, he like walked straight to the Gelsons and grabbed just like a rotisserie chicken and just sat outside and just ate the whole rotisserie chicken as like a celebratory thing. And I brought it up on there, and he remembered doing it. It was just like super. It's just like it's funny those like very primitive things that your body does when you accomplish something where you're like, I just need something like this so bad.
Yeah, here's the thing. We've all been there. We've all been eating a rotisserie chicken on the street. It's a part of the journey.
uh
Um
yeah, when you revisited the record, is that still your favorite song on it though? The
yes.
last track? Yeah.
Yeah, Son of a Widow is my favorite track. I feel like Leaf was for on first listen through I was like Leaf might be the one, and then Son of a Widow happens, and just there's something with the delivery. It's like the only song he's really singing on, because I think a beautiful what such a cool tactic of this band. I think I think this band got me into poetry as like a teenager, like
Makes sense.
interested in it. I think I brought in some of these lyrics to like one of my like English classes or whatever to discuss when we were doing poetry stuff. So and I think a really powerful piece of why the lyrics stand out is because of the way he chooses to deliver them with zero melody, not with screaming, not being holden to an exact rhythm of how the song is supposed to work. Like he is writing specifically to what the music sounds like, but not in and he's writing words that he thinks fits the sounds that are happening around him, and he'll figure out the rhythm and the actual musicality later. But even his delivery to me feels musical, even when it's like not technically on the beat or what. It doesn't matter. And I've
Totally.
never heard anything like that. I've never heard anyone who's just like the poetry comes first.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And you could hear that he found his singing voice on this record too, which is very unique to him.
Mm-hmm.
Um it's I feel like it pulls from a place of like maybe like a Neutral Milk Hotel or something like that, like
Right.
something where it's like it's not a traditional sounding voice in this sort of indie rock world, but it works so well over what they're doing. And it, reminds us, some of us young kids that don't have good singing voices, like, hey, you're allowed to do this. It like gives you permission to do it, which is
Right.
something that I know I've always really appreciated about this band. Yeah, there's
Yeah, give
God,
me some of your favorite lyrics and
oh God.
like
Yeah,
cuz you are this is your wheelhouse.
God, man. Like, yeah, I made some notes, like in "Tie Me Up, Untie Me," where he says, "You, my hidden pearl of pure and perfect love, and I'm the living example of 100% the opposite of this." It's like, it's 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 so it's so good. I don't know if
Mhm.
you ever got into the Weaker Thans, or like
I
listen to John
haven't.
K. Samson. Okay, it's totally fine. The lyricist of the Weaker Thans is a gentleman named John K. Samson.
Yeah.
He's always been like a top 3 for me, like always has been. And what I love so much about John K. Samson is that when you're listening to his lyrics, you can absolutely like you can envision everything. He paints the picture of like every detail of the room that you're in. Like he's very good at giving you a time, like a location of what you're listening to. It's brilliant. Um and Aaron, I think, accomplishes that just as well, where like in
Mhm.
Leaf, like the um I like that it feels like a self-reflection where he says, like, however much I strut around, however loud I sing, the shining one inside me won't say anything. It's like so good because you think of his stage presence and obviously the way he delivers lyrics. It's like just the shoutiness. And he does
Yep.
have, whether he'll admit to it or not, my man has swagger on stage.
He's got swag.
He's got some of the best dance moves in town, you know? He truly does. That man can spin in a circle. That man can spin in a circle. Uh
Yeah. Twirl.
So yeah, he
He
can
be
certainly
twirling.
twirl.
Yeah.
Um, I I just need to make sure it gets talked about. in the song Paper Hanger,
Oh, what a title. I love that fucking title.
dude, the towards the outro when it all comes in like the ba-na-na-na-na-na,
Mm-hmm.
ow, ow, that's my favorite. The drum fill that Ricky does, it's so simple.
Mm.
It is so tasteful, and it's my favorite drum fill of all time. The da-na-na-na-na-na,
You know
da-dum-dum-da-dum-da-na-na.
what it is?
It's fucking so good.
You know what? I'm realizing this might be stupid and I might be wrong, but the way you described that, that's how I feel about Chuck Biscuit's drums on Danzig 1.
Mhm.
Restrained. The drums kind of sound the same. They have that tight Rick Rubin sound. It has a connection there. And both of these guys are drummers who it's like anytime like the next big part is coming, it feels like they could go in there and shred. They could be shredding the toms, but
Oh,
no.
yeah. Holding
Restraint,
back.
holding back until it really matters. Oh my god, I agree. That this outro is it's so sick.
It's like seeing ever if you ever got a chance to see it live, like, you're just waiting for it to happen, for all of them to come in together because
Mhm.
they're a band, similar to At the Drive-In in a lot of ways. I just mentioned
Yeah.
them a little bit ago. Not I would say sonic what I'm getting at is, like, the guitars on it in this band are seemingly rarely ever doing the same thing at the same time.
Yes.
They're all sort of they're like meandering around each other, and
Hmm.
making these really beautiful uh
This.
just just palettes for Aaron to do whatever he wants on it, but it's like it's really gorgeous how they just kind of like swim and swirl around these songs around the rhythm section of the band.
Yeah.
um and At the Drive-In is very much the same way, but in a more chaotic fashion. It's more, like single notey type stuff. But
Yep.
there's a track on Relationship of Command. It's the slower track, which the name escapes me right now, where they all come, but in that song, they all come in together and they're playing the same notes all
Oh,
together.
the one that has like the Black Sabbath bass line.
Could be.
Do do
Uh,
do do or whatever.
ye-
Like it.
uh,
That one.
let's just be professional.
I'm gonna
Because
look it
now
up.
we're talking about it. We're talking about it. It's,
Where I'll talk about At the Drive-In for another hour. I
is it
think
Roll No,
Quarantined. Is that the one?
oh my
That's
God.
the slow. That's what I think of as the slow one on that record.
Someone who's watching this right now is just screaming.
It's
Someone is
okay.
saying,
Listen, if it's super boring, we can cut it out. It doesn't matter.
no, no, more so like knowing what the song is,
Yeah.
but not, but it's,
It's
uh,
not that one. It's not Quarantined.
it's funny, I tried to put it on, but I think because I have all of this audio stuff set up, my phone won't let me hear the song.
Invalid litter debt.
It
Someone in
might,
the
that's what
chat
I,
says.
that's the one, I could be that. Anyway, anyway, so you get the part that what I'm getting at is in Paper Hanger, you get the guitars all hitting the same, like the da 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 ba da,
Yep.
and it's so gratifying. It's so tasteful. It's
Hmm.
so tasteful.
It feels
Um,
great, and they're not. They don't stick to one guitar sound throughout the record. Like the fact that it felt, especially at the time, it felt like a rarity to hear a record where guitars would switch and have like their main tone be both like a bridge pickup and a neck pickup. They're playing with so many different types of sounds. It's
yeah.
awesome. I was listening to it with my girlfriend this morning in the car, and she was like, "This is sick." She was like, "There's so much." She got me into early U2
Okay,
like
yeah.
about a year ago, and
Uh-huh.
I had written off U2 incorrectly because those first whole bunch of albums are fucking sick, and there's so much the playfulness with diminished like note runs and whatnot are very much also present here. They're doing a lot of like cool the edge business, but with a lot more melody. It feels like because Aaron isn't providing melody to it, the guitars get to do that. The guitars get to be singing the whole time, which is really awesome. And
Yeah,
there's no boundary on it.
totally. That's a really good comparison. I can imagine that this band is fully U2 fans. I could be wrong, but it
Yeah.
seems like they would be. It seems like they would be.
It was at the drive-in, full U2 fans.
Yeah.
Everyone like converge. U2 fans. Nate has told me that he's like, anytime we go to record a record, I'm like, does it follow the Joshua Tree flow? Does it flow this in a similar format to that?
Interesting.
Isn't that crazy? I
Well,
might have just
no. Well, the Joshua Tree flow is that it's just like all of the singles up front.
Yep. Just
like
bangers at the top,
yeah,
slow shit at the back.
yeah. And I mean, you look at some of the Converge records, and it does certainly Acts of Fall flows that way. Certainly No Hero flows that way. That makes sense. I can see it. All We Love certainly flows that way.
Honestly, yeah, they all do. Because like Jane Doe, first two songs, everyone thinks are one song. Like, and then by the end, they're like, all right, 11-minute, the best 11-minute song of all time.
Another thing about that happens on this album that I'm just a complete sucker for is consistent kick drum, but it's not a double kick. So like in My Exit Unfair and I believe Four Letter Word, like the like all of those little parts. And I mean, like, yeah, Aaron also accomplishes the thing where even if maybe the context of the lyrics you're not fully connecting, it's not like you're not connecting with them because you don't like them. You're not connecting with them because maybe you haven't lived this experience or something like that.
Totally.
But what he's so good at is at least one line in every single song will hit you in the guts, where you're just like, there it is, like he's and I'll be honest, like for me personally, that I keep that in my head a lot when I'm writing, where it's just like, get out what you need to get out, but try your best to at least have a line that people can make their own and connect in their own ways. God, in the Forward Letter song, when it just like drops and he's like, my dad's getting a bit older now and just unimaginably lonely. It's just like, it is so impactful. And whether it's a mom or a dad or whatever, like it like just like the imagery of your parent being left alone or lonely in any capacity is enough to make you want to pick up the phone,
Yeah. It's I think that's such a beautiful way to look at it. Like do you think he's going into writing these lyrics thinking about like, I want to have at least like one line connected with somebody, or do you think it's just a stream of consciousness for him writing these?
I can't really I certainly can't totally know for sure, but Aaron doesn't strike me as someone who's writing for anyone other than his himself. Like especially, I mean, he's so open on all of their records, but I feel like this one in particular, there are some lines that are like
devastating,
real tough. Yeah.
The dad line is top. Like it pulls. It's one of those moments where it feels like you're pulled out of the album, but you're actually pulled further into the album.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, the record doesn't let up. Like there's no filler on this album. Every song has the part. Every song has the part that you just go, oh. Like in the My Exit Unfair song, where it like and he goes, oh, the ground, the darkness, like that, like the drop into it is so like every time when you see it live, you just like you want to fall with the band when it's happening, you know?
Yeah. I think I've seen them. I think I saw them with the Blood Brothers
You did
one time
with Coheed too.
with
Coheed.
Coheed. Yes. Oh my god! I thought I made that up. I
No,
was
it
like,
was
"There's no fucking way." That was
yeah,
the tour with
yeah.
Coheed.
It was
Yeah.
Coheed was headlining, and then Blood Brothers were direct support. Me Without You, and then Dredge was first.
Yes. Oh my god, Dredge.
Yeah, yo, the drummer of Dredge.
Mm, dude.
His bit, which is a good bit, an expensive bit, but if you watch videos, I think he broke a stick on every snare hit. Like, he would do a thing where he would lift his arm all the way up in the air, and you would just see sticks flying just the whole time. He hit the snare so fucking hard, but it was just like you're like, if this is a bit and those are just like the thinnest sticks because they're like like 75 cents somewhere, like you have
Yeah.
like an in, and this is just you're committing to the bit, I'm
Right.
in. But if those are normal sticks, uh, man, you are
Yeah.
Thor. You are Thor behind the drums. It's crazy.
I've seen. Yeah.
They have a record called it's similar name to Catch for Us the Foxes, Catch Without Eyes or something like that. Oh,
Mm.
it's so fucking good. It's so
I've
good.
I completely forgot about that band,
Mhm.
and
They're an
I
LA band too, so that's why I think I might have a little deeper connection.
there you go. Well, thank you for confirming to me that that tour actually happened because I was like, "There's no fucking way all three of those bands played together."
Remember Coheed had a guillotine on stage. Like they
Yeah,
they like full on rock show. It
you're
was
right. It because it was like right before they put out the Welcome Home album. It was still the In Keeping Secrets tour, I
that
believe.
sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Like I was down with those first couple Coheed records, but I went to that show specifically for the openers. You
Yeah.
know, like I had respect and I still have respect for Coheed, but uh I love the Blood Brothers.
Love the
Loved Me
Blood.
Without You. I think I was even going maybe specifically for Me Without You because that might have been one of their first tours on whatever album was around that time. That might have been Brother Sister, maybe? I can't remember.
I think it might have been this album's.
It might have been Catch.
I feel like it might be Catch because
Okay.
this feels like it was a 2004 early
Oh,
2005
sure.
tour.
Okay, then
Um
yeah, then it definitely would have been Catch.
which like I that actually might have been, now that I am remember, my memory is just gone for the most part. Like I'm so selective.
I used to be sharp as a tack with my memory, but these last couple years, nope, it's all gone.
We did, dude, when we did your show and you were asking me, I like, you would be like, "And where are you from?" I'm like,
Where am I
"Where
from?
am I from?" I'm like, what? Like, I was trying to access memories that I just haven't thought of in so long, and there's just like this era of going to see bands. I'm like, these guys played together in my mind. That couldn't have happened though. That's insane.
Totally.
Um,
And to be funny, that's like that's kind of the part that I feel so guilty about with the show that I do is because it's all about first experiences. And and like if I'm especially if I'm like interviewing someone who's like round or near in their like 40s, it's like these people have not thought about some of the stuff. It's like, hey, what was the first, song you ever learned how to play on guitar? They're like, oh, so yeah. So it's kind of fun though to see someone try to really dig
oh, I
that stuff
loved it.
up. Yeah.
Dude, it's fun. I hadn't thought about the Battle of the Bands thing forever. I didn't I was like, in the middle of the show, I was like, "Oh my god. That was my first show ever." It was the first time
Yeah.
I played music in front of people, and it was
And I loved your story.
an incredible disaster.
I loved your story about not knowing what your band name actually was because maybe the person in your band like turned it in without letting you guys know, and then it being a disaster and you leaving before, right? Isn't that what happened? You left before
Yeah.
you found out if you won.
Yeah, no, they were like, "Let's just go. We didn't win." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, I stayed to watch for a second to watch Havoc, the
right?
like our town Metallica,
Yeah.
and then we got the fuck out of there. But with this, that lineup for with Coheed, Me Without You, Blood Brothers, like that, all of those guys are just that's just like a true misfits tour. Just bands that didn't that should not fit in on paper, but they fucking were. Especially, honestly, especially Coheed. That band is a stadium band now, and they are a bunch of not conventionally like handsome guys playing prog rock emo based off of like comic books and board games that they made up that are out of order. You can't, no one knows what any song is about. And he has a a very specific voice and doesn't look like that voice should be coming out of him. It's insane that they made it. I love
Yeah.
it.
I'm with you. I have such deep respect for that band in a lot of different reasons, but like the fact that they were able to sort of like shed off and live through, like when they were sort of pigeonholed as like, like an emo band, like a Warped
Mhm.
Tour sort of emo band. Um, which I don't know that they ever felt like they should have been in that world anyway. I think it just
Mhm.
kind of worked out because of the label they were on and all of that. But like, and then to become like a very cult beloved band where people are like really paying attention to every little detail of every little thing you do. It's like it's a really cool accomplishment. You know, I have so much admiration for how they've managed their career. It's fascinating.
It's fascinating. I like
What
now
you
thinking
said
about it.
what you said though about that tour, I hadn't thought about that, but that's a really great point because yeah, it's like where do you put me without you? Like um they're you know I can feel a kinship with them because we've historically been the band that can tour with Converge, but that we could also tour with Circa Survive. That's certainly like a lane that they've
Mhm.
been able to be in. But like Blood Brothers, they're same boat. It's like it's
Yeah.
the most hyper aggressive thing you've ever heard in your entire life, but there's no breakdowns. You know
No
what I'm
break.
saying? Like,
There's
yeah,
there's it's electric piano core. Like it's crazy.
yeah,
Um but it isn't also at the same time. It's its own thing. It's just like cool queer chaos, which is uh a beautiful thing and
yeah,
was fucking so refreshing in that era.
yeah.
I'm a big Blood Brothers guy.
Um, I was just looking through my notes here still. I want to make mention of the song Carousels, the second to last song.
Yes.
Um, which I would be curious to ask those guys like what the songwriting process on that one is in particular because it feels like it could have come from like a jam session or something like that where it feels sort of
Mhm.
like a little bit avant-garde where um it sort of seems like it's like let Aaron do whatever he wants to do over this, kind of
Mhm.
which is I don't know if I'm making enough sense on this, but it does feel like it just sort of feels like a very free form song. Um,
Right.
and has, I hate to always like say like, oh, this is the saddest song on the record, like that doesn't seem very intelligent, but like to me, it's the saddest song on the record because the tone of Aaron's voice in it like sounds very defeated and like the vocal
Yeah.
delivery of a lot of these lines sound very defeated. Like
There's also a
I
lot of lines about buses, which is as defeated as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, like, when he says, it was me who let you down, and it was the shyest attempt I'd ever seen at a conversation," or
Yeah.
and Saint Cyril's fair always came through, but the first week of September, but it's already the 19th. It's like, that you could unpack so much about that, about how, like, time is just flying and all these sorts of things, and then,
Mhm.
the whole like in Christ, when you're ready to come back, I think I'm ready for you to come back. But if you want to stay wherever you are, that's okay too. It's really none of my business. Like it's like the way those lines are delivered just have always stuck with me so much. And kind of teaches you that a lyric can be a lyric, but the way you deliver it can make or can give a line, no matter how happy or sad, a completely separate identity or a deeper identity, depending on the delivery.
Let me ask you specifically about this line. Um, do you think when you read that line, and Christ, when you're ready to come back, I think I'm ready for you to come back, but if you want to stay exactly where you are, that's okay too. It's none of my business. What does that just not what do you think Aaron was writing about, but what does that mean specifically to you? Do you interpret that more as like a like I'm ready for you to like fix the world, or do you think that like do you read that as I think I'm ready for the the world to end
That
kind of
one,
thing?
I've
Yeah.
always taken it as that one, as
Yeah.
like I'm done. I've it seems like someone who is taking comfort in what we've all been told the afterlife is going to be,
Right.
and that idea of like I I'm happy to not be here anymore, and I'm happy to be with you in a place that is happier than this. Um,
Mhm.
but then also that like you know s- do you, it's none of my business, kind of a thing too. Just feels like it's so apathetic, and as someone who can relate to being apathetic about most things,
Yeah.
that line always it always just like struck such a chord with me.
Me too. It took like um when I first heard it when I was younger, I think I it was weird. I do think I even though eventually I'm turned off. Like I the first time I was listening to these guys, I just didn't think about the Christian aspect. I didn't think about it because I was a little Jewish kid. I don't know. Like I I've heard people use the word God and Christ in songs that have nothing to directly to do with like uh the the religion of Christianity. So when I heard this, I thought of it the same way. I'm like, this sounds like a guy trying to have a conversation about like um how it how it feels to try to prepare yourself to die. It feels like that those four lines when I think about them, it's like those are almost that's almost the exact conversation that we kind of all have to have every day to kind of keep going. Like we all hope that like I think I'm ready for you to come back is like I think I'm ready to die, but also I might not be ready and you're going to decide when that like the earth is or whatever the forces are going to decide when that happens anyway. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, almost like the reminder of like maybe keep that in your mind and try to live a little better, because you never know when that's actually going to happen.
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
like, there's also there can be the darker like side of it. It was always very powerful and it just I never read as religious in any way to me. And again, I think that just goes back to what we talked about where this is all it's archaeological. It's taking the pieces and trying to use them to communicate something else, but it's using universal content or whatever.
Totally. And like to stick with like the Christian conversation and like that being a turnoff, we've talked about it a few times in here, but like it is really interesting that I'm exactly like you. Like most times I probably would have been snooty about it or just like written a band off because I like can't relate to it or have no interest in relating to it or anything like that. But like
Mm-hmm.
um I just without even I was just like just unconsciously was like, this band gets a pass because there's so like, you know what I'm saying? Like it just
Yeah.
never had any sort of negative effect on me because there was just so much more going on. And like, you know, uh
Yeah.
to to get, like we're obviously talking about some of the darker subject matters here, but I mean like for this to be considered like a to be on a Christian label, be sold in Christian bookstores but
Hmm.
several of these songs are talking like very openly about suicide. It's
Yeah.
like that's
That
a lot.
line could
That's a
also be suicide.
yeah. I mean, there's so much to unpack there, but it's like, that's not. This isn't a standard praise record. You know what I'm saying?
It's
There's a lot of that thematically throughout this record, and it's like it hits every single time, even to this day. Like, and there's certain lines on this record that even when you see him live now, 20 years later, you're almost kind of nervous when they're coming because you're like, fuck, like that's a that still hits really, really hard, you know?
yeah. I think I think that I was reading their Wikipedia today, and I've heard Aaron describe them. They're like answering the question, like, "Are you a Christian band?" Going like, "No, I'm just." I I think that that all of these pieces of spirituality are fascinating to use as like as a communication device, because it is in some ways uh these big stories that have been known for different cultures for so many years are the easiest way to communicate like these like the struggles like of depression and trying to like figure out your way in the world. But you don't have to do it with like there's I think the
Sure.
difference is that a there isn't like an answer. He's asking questions as
Yeah.
opposed to trying to give you any answers, which is what separates the uncomfortability of the religious aspect, at least for me.
Yeah. Totally. And I've heard him say that similar stuff. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe maybe his parents are both different religion, or both maybe raised different religions, or like a part of different. I don't quote me on that, but like, I think that there's just like, I think he just has a deep affinity for the knowledge and the history and the teachings from several different religious backgrounds, and that's
Right.
fascinating to me. You know, I
Yeah.
I'm happy anyone's fascinated with anything other than their cell phone. You know what I'm saying? So
Dude, yeah, 100%. Like, I think I love anyone. I agree with you. I love anyone fascinated with literally anything.
yeah, yeah,
It's fun to
yeah,
watch people dissect that stuff. It makes it like this type of shit makes me want to like, you know, uh eh, I'm like, this is, I guess, like how kids get fired up for like religious studies as like a just from a like a museum standpoint. Like, I get that, to try to
yeah,
make the connections that way. I think it's great. I think that these guys are so unique. The fact that the only band that has like created a sound that made me go like, "Oh, Me Without You" is you guys, and you kind of don't sound like them is it speaks so loudly, especially for your band, but also them, that they are a weird lightning in the bottle. There's no who the fuck if you tell someone about this band, it's impossible to sell. It's a guy reading slam poetry over like emo
yeah.
music, I guess. Like, how do you sell it? That sounds like a nightmare on
It's
paper to most
no,
people.
yeah. Like it's really that's what has kept them to be such a fascinating band. It's like, I mean, when they made that "It's All Crazy" record, which
Mhm.
was like like a pretty uh I don't want contentious sounds really negative, but like, a divisive record amongst people because it was them going a totally different route sonically,
Mhm.
where it's more to bring back Neutral Milk Hotel, like you could tell that it's very in that vein and it's like very more folk based and all of that. And the songs are there's a lot of songs about animals on that record. It's like pretty all over the place thematically. It's even a ton of religious seeming songs on that and all of that. So like, um, and then going forward from that record, the records after that were sort of the mix of those two sounds, which creates like it's the band has gone through so many different stages of their sound, and every single stage is just like furthering the fact that there's no one like this band. And there
Right.
will never be anyone like this band that can do it just as well as them. So, they're gonna be so missed. They're already so missed. I don't
Yeah.
know if you watched the live stream of that last show, but it was unbelievable. Like, unbelievable how
I do
good.
got to check it
Yeah.
out. Once when I saw you pop up, I was like, all right, I got to I do eventually I
Oh,
gotta
no,
take
I
that.
so I played I sang with them in the LA show, but when they did, like, their final show in Philly, they, like, live
Oh,
streamed it. Yeah, I just came out to their LA show on their last
their
tour, but, like,
LA final
yeah,
tour.
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right, right.
but the final night, when they played, in Philly, and they, like, live streamed the final sh that was so good, and they played for like, another thing that I just love about I always loved about them was that the set list was never the same, you know?
Yeah,
Like, that they're a band that can play completely different set most nights, and, like, the transitions from songs into songs are so flawless still, where you're just it's like writing a set list is a craft, and
yep.
it was never a hinder for these guys.
How do you? I guess like what is your what do you think? What's the magic piece of the craft to creating a set list? Like, what do you do?
Um, it's energy based. I have a
Yeah.
real I always write the set list for all of our tours. I'm currently working on it now for our fall tours, and it's really tough. Like, you have to look at, okay, we have this amount of time,
Hmm.
and it's hard not to fall in the same rhythm of playing the same, you know, fucking 10 songs more or less. But it's also tricky because we're stuck in this hole where you feel like you have to play to the Spotify, like, popular songs too. But you're
Right.
like, well, there's a reason those are the Spotify popular songs, because that's the songs that people seem to be listening to the most. So, like, you kind of craft your thing, and you're like, but you don't want to, because you're like, we have 5 records. Like, we have so many songs that, like,
Yeah.
whatever. But for me, as, like, the front person, like, I'm feeding off the energy of the crowd, and, like, if we play 2 maybe deeper cuts in a row and I feel the levels drop, like, that makes me feel like I am letting everybody in this room down. Like, everybody, people who don't know us are thinking this band stinks. This guy lost the plot. Like, he's not connecting with anyone anymore. These are all the this is the
Right.
psychosis in my head that I go through. So, like, for me, it's uh I love a solid transition, like, where tempos are the same, or, like, maybe a song can drop into another song. Like, all of that sort of stuff is
Hmm.
really fascinating to me. um but it always gets fun when you have a new record, because then you have to, like, I have a whole list of, like, all of our songs, and then all of the tunings next to those songs. So I'm like, okay, well, these have to be in these blocks and whatever. It's like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
it's a science, but um
Totally.
yeah, but it's tough now, because, I mean, we used to be able to, like, "Oh, we have a 30-minute song, or sorry, 30-minute set. Oh, we can play 22 songs." That's how it used to feel. But
Right.
these last couple records, now we write normal length songs, so it's weird to look at a set and be like, "Wow, we have 30 minutes, but we can only play, like, 9 songs." Like, "Whoa, that
The
doesn't seem
fuck?
right."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know.
We
But
you guys
it's
also have you guys have a ton. You guys have a lot of records now.
I know, it's crazy. I
It's
know.
awesome.
We should stop.
It's enough already. No, keep going. You guys are only you I do think that you're a band that um kind of keeps getting better, and
Aw, thanks.
you guys keep getting more and more recognition each time that you do something. So you're do like I'm not the only one who thinks that.
That's very nice of you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're doing our best. I it's a nice feeling, and it sounds so cliche, and every band says it, but, like, it's nice when, like, whatever the newest record is becomes my favorite record, you know? It's like,
Right.
"Oh, this is, like, I love I am happy with all of this," like, I really like all of this, and then to have that ever connect with people outside of us is always the most gratifying thing. So, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Well, you can tell, and eventually people like I've heard people talk about, sometimes the newest record, like it's like we were in crunch time and we just had to get it out, and it didn't result in our best work or whatever. But when you know how to work with your team well, which you guys have a very consistent team. You guys work well together. There's a reason that it keeps building in the way it does. You guys are
I appreciate
shocker.
that.
You're a good band.
Yeah, I think that we all would know if we weren't doing a good job writing. I think that we would be very conscious of like we got to either keep writing because we're not there yet, kind of a
Right.
thing. You know, like I don't know that we could ever be the band to just be like, oh no, but we have 10 songs, so we have to go record those 10 songs whether we believe in them or not or something. I think that we're always going to be extremely self-critical, and we work, tirelessly to, that was a big learning lesson. And this is podcast. I know this show isn't about us or anything like that, so I apologize.
This show is about whatever it
Okay.
becomes. Like,
I will say that it was after a few records. One of the things we really learned was that we had to have a completely all equal agreement that each one of us loves every single part of every single song that we wrote before recording it. That there's no one on the fence like, I don't really like that song. If anyone feels that way, then we're not recording that song. We have to write another one,
Right.
So that's something that I would give advice to other bands too. It's like, if you are going in to record a record, make sure that all of you equally love all of the material the same.
I think that that's such a big thing that bands don't realize. I've made that mistake a lot because there's especially in today's day where it feels easy to record music or whatever, and you feel like you need to get it done to help promote and help yourself get shows. It's like, no, really, like, if you are feeling hesitant about music and you have recording time like set up, you got to cancel that time. You got to push it. It's always better to wait and work on the shit and make it like happen, because like that's like Prince has a vault of unfinished songs, and it's because sometimes you go to that vault. It's not because the vault is full of songs that are going to be that should be released into the world, is whatever. It's because he has elements of each song that he would want to apply to stuff later. You want to see what you've worked on. It's always not every song you write is going to make it to an album or should make it to an album. Some of it can stay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important. And I know some people work really well with a fire under their ass, and like that, if that's, or there's people who write only in the studio. Like, I don't know if
it couldn't be me.
Oh my God, no. If you've ever had, I don't know if you've ever had Patrick Kinlan from Drug Church Self Defense Family on this channel ever, or anything like that. But like he writes every single lyric ever in the studio, and it's just so the last thing I could ever do. And his lyrics are so good too. So
have you seen his little interview with Colin? He
is the best interview.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
A completely unique individual person. So much so that everything he says, I'm like, I can never relate to what you're talking about, but you are fascinating.
Patrick is one of my favorite people I've met through music. He's someone that I consider a very close friend. Mm-hmm. And he's someone that, though I might not agree with things he says often, or I don't feel as passionately about things he's saying often, right. I love to hear him say them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like no one plays contrarian better than PK, but I'm here for it because I just know I'm gonna laugh regardless.
100%. He and I have never met, but after that interview, and after hearing Drug Church and everything, I was like, this guy, this is a person that has never existed before. This is a single entity human being, and that shit is rare, and I love it. I love that he exists.
Funny enough, when we toured with Me Without You in 2014, we brought Drug Church. That was the band that we chose to be on that.
Wow.
Because I just put out a 7-inch for them on the label that I do. And I remember there being the nervousness of like, Aaron and Patrick in the same room together might be a tough hang. Like, I hope that goes okay. But the greatest thing is that a lot of people don't know this, but Patrick is a religious studies major. So
Oh.
so there was a lot of really interesting, like, just dynamics backstage, you know what I'm saying? And they got along
Yeah.
incredibly. They got along so swimmingly. It was awesome. But, like, me as the friend on the outside who I didn't know the Me Without You guys yet, and I'm just like, "Uh-oh, like, was this a bad move to bring my outspoken, you know, potentially rude friend, on
Yeah.
this tour to be in front of these guys?"
You can say he's a rude guy. It's true.
But at the
He's
same time
proudly rude.
he's the nicest guy you'll ever meet in your life, which
Yeah.
is a yeah, yeah.
I love also there's enough pressure in the real world when you have to introduce two friends
Oh,
and hope
totally.
they get along.
Yeah.
That's a situation where it's like no one goes home after this. We're stuck here. We got to
Yeah.
do this for another month and a half. Fuck.
Totally.
Um
Totally.
But anyway, you brought it back to Me Without You. I guess before we get out of here, I'm gonna let you get on with the rest of your day,
Sure.
dude. What I guess I said that "Son of a Widow" is my favorite song. What's your favorite song in this album? What's the track?
I'm not gonna cheat and say two songs. I'm gonna stick to one. I'm gonna stick to one song.
You can
Um,
honorable mention the other
yeah.
one.
My Exit Unfair is really up there, and my
Mm.
honorable mention is probably January 1979, just because it feels like the most basic song to choose, but, like, there's a reason. It rips. It just rips.
Oh
And
my god! Just the first couple of lines are just like you'd never heard anybody put words together like that in a song before, and it's usually the song that most people hear from Me Without You as that's everyone's first Me Without You song. So it's a perfect encapsulation of what you're gonna get.
I'll tell you the story. When we were on tour with them, they hadn't played that song live yet. And it was one of those things where it's just like, oh man, are they not going to play it on this tour? Do they have like some, you start making up like, oh, are they in, whatever.
Do
But
they hate it? Oh no.
yeah. And then we played in Boise, Idaho, and it was a really small venue, like no barrier, any of that stuff. And I think they opened with it. And it was like the thing where like everybody backstage just ran to go watch it happen. And like everybody just started stage diving and stuff like that. Cause just like, oh my God, they're doing it. And it
Yeah.
was just like, it was the most exciting thing where I was just like, fuck, there is the best. Yeah. I love this band so much.
Yeah. So they like they legit just were not playing it on the other dates.
Yeah, like I'd have to even look at the dates to see how far into the tour maybe we were at that point. I have to feel like we were probably kind of far because we would have been in Boise for some reason, which is like, like
Mm-hmm.
we would have been coming from a couple different cities before getting to Boise. So,
Right.
I don't exactly know why maybe they hadn't played it yet, but when they did, it was like, and we weren't comfortable enough to ask them like, why aren't you playing that song? Kind of a
Right.
thing yet or whatever. But so when it got brought out, it was like everyone's ears just perked. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, we gotta go see.
They're
We gotta
playing
go
the
watch.
jam.
Yeah, yeah.
But your number one song.
From this record.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. I think it's. I think I'm gonna go with My Exit Unfair.
hell yeah.
Yeah. The song's
It's
so good.
it's so good. We did it's that ending also. Their endings of songs are beautiful.
What they're really great at is, and something that I can only relate to my own musical stuff is like, I'm always super self-conscious of filling up too much space, like where I'm always just feel like I always have to like have vocals over everything. And I don't know
Mhm.
if you ever went through that as well, where you're like, you feel like you have to like fill every space. And this is a band that's really good at reminding you that it's like, no, you can let your band just play. Like
Yeah.
they'll have like minute-long outros that are so tasteful. And I just like imagine I'd be like, oh, I gotta fucking bark over this or something stupid. But it's like, no, you don't. Like, just let your band be awesome. And they're so good at that.
Yeah. I think I I think mainly because I've just been a guitarist most of the time. I never want to be the singer. Like, I never would, mostly because just lyrics are hard, and when I have to write them, it's it becomes something where I'm just like, all right, I just have to pick I have to stream of conscious write my lyrics. Like
Sure.
I on the last little EP I put out like right before the pandemic, um the singer in my band was having a hard time writing anything to this one specific song, and I just was like, one night I was like, all right, I'm just gonna, in my head I was like, this will just be a draft that she can work off of and we can kind of figure, and I was just like, what am I gonna do? And I was just like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna stream of conscious write some poetry about like what I'm afraid of when I get too high or whatever. Like what do I, and that's just what happens. And
Yeah.
it's just I force it out of myself, and it's just it's too difficult to process, and I'm too critical of it. So in those moments, I'm always happy to
Yeah.
leave some space in the song where
Yeah.
I don't have to write.
I certainly get writer's block every time I, like, need to write, and I'm not someone who's writing all the time. I only write lyrics when I have to. I'm
Right.
not walking around with a notebook, and, so whenever it comes time to do a new record, I always reach out to other people who sing in bands just to sort of, like, pick their brain on, like,
Mm.
what inspired them to get writing on their latest record. Like, I always just like to hear that stuff in general. It's always helpful for me, and it'll inspire me to do something, but, I remember Barry from Joyce Manor telling me that he was doing the thing where which a lot of people do, um, which is as soon as you wake up, you just grab a notebook and you just start stream of
Yep.
conscious writing. Just
Yep.
write whatever. Just and the first thing that comes to your mind. Um, and he was like, admittedly, it's terrible. He was like, it's always gonna be bad. And he's like, it's always gonna be upsetting to see how negative it's probably gonna be a lot. But you'll be able to pull some stuff out of it though. Like you'll be able to be like, well, that's a good line. Or I could build off that. It's like you can't expect all of it to be the thing, but like that whatever. And I was always like, oh, that's a really good idea. I should start to do that. Didn't do it once. I've never done it. I've still never done it.
I've done it a couple of times.
Yeah.
It does work.
Okay.
Like to
My
be
br my brain is, like, so fucking stupid where it's like, "Well, I need coffee first." Like, that's like, the idea of doing anything besides, like, getting up, peeing, and then getting a coffee is, like,
yeah.
crazy to me. So, like, I think I'm just so built into routine, and that's as foolish as that sounds. It's, like, just, could be destructive to, like, my creative process, but I just, like, I'm just so hardwired in in that
Even that,
primal way.
even you can get the coffee and then just take a sip and then go. Like I have my I some of my like favorite bits that we've ever done on the show. I've like woken up at 3 a.m. and just written into the notepad, and I'm like, I don't think this is gonna make sense, but maybe it will. And then it ends up being one of our favorite bits. Or like um the stream of consciousness stuff helps because a lot of what's going to come out of you is you being combative. It starts off, it's kind of the same flow, which is you're being combative with yourself for even having to do it. You're like, this fucking, like, you're going to be mad, and then you're going to dip into your fears inevitably. The stream of consciousness writing, I think, and that's where the good shit is when you start going like, I'm mad about this, because you're essentially just writing, doing like a written therapy that feels a little more poetic, and you can pull your fears and anger out and build something. And
Totally.
maybe it becomes, after anger and fear, it's like a stages of grief thing. It's
Yeah.
wild.
No, I can totally imagine. One of these days, I'm gonna gonna do it. It's also like it's
Maybe
like
give it a go.
it's like the most me shit in the entire world though too, where I'm like, I've set this strict set of rules where it's like, no, you cannot do a single thing other than start writing. Where it's like, no, you can go get a coffee, you asshole. You can do all the things that you can literally do. But like me, I'm like, no, it must be this direct way because that's the way I was told you have to do it. So
Well, here's the who the fuck has a like what like I waking up is a weird thing now. Like it's not we're past 30, so like
yeah,
now waking up isn't you wake up when it's completely light out at 9:30. It's the like waking up for us at this point. I'm assuming this is also for you, and I'm sorry if it's not. Is like is like it's 6 a.m. Fuck this, and then like it's like a little too dark. You won't be able to bust out a pen and a pad.
oh
It's
no,
like
no,
what is the time to wake up? Like coffee after coffee is waking up
yeah,
sometimes. So that's your own
yeah.
definition. You can
But
still wake up.
you got a pet, right? You got a pet?
Yeah.
You got a dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then there's like the, well, I gotta take the dog out now. I gotta.
Yeah.
It's like
Totally.
everything is a step between me and picking up that pen. But
Totally.
I'll get there one day. You know, I
One
got
day,
one
well,
day I'll start. I'll learn how to write lyrics one of these days. You know what I'm saying?
here's the thing. You write beautiful lyrics.
I
I
appreciate
love
it.
your
Thank you.
lyrics.
Thank
They
you.
are they are so they feel very inspired by
I appreciate
they
that.
feel more like they feel more like poetry than most other lyrics that in our world, I would say. In our current
Yeah, sure.
environment,
No, I appreciate
which I
that. Thank you.
love.
I appreciate that. I work very hard. I work very, very hard. I drive myself absolutely crazy and I can be very tough on myself about that, but I'm happy that I am. You know, like
Mhm.
I work extraordinarily hard and I drive people around me crazy with it. So, yeah.
Dude, me too. Yeah, literally me too.
I'm not fun to be around when I have to write a record. I'm telling you that right now. I'm not a fun person to I'm not a I'm not a beacon of light, shall we say? Cuz I mean truthfully it's like, oh, it's usually because I've been putting off thinking about some of the things that I'm now going to start singing about. And now it's
Yeah.
like now I have to it's like cool, now I get to just like dig through the parts of myself that I'm not crazy about and focus on that for the next X amount of months while I'm trying to write a record. It's just like it's not the most fun process and I know everyone else
Right.
goes through that too. So I'm not unique in feeling this way, but it's so once usually when we have the conversation which we're having currently of like we got to start writing a new record, you know, it's like
Yeah.
I give until we have probably like 3 or 4 songs done musically before I start writing lyrics because it's like I don't want to start this process until I have a few different things to start like working on where I can like sort of gauge energy on those songs to be like, okay, this feels like it could be this sort of you know, like this feels more like a angry-ish song. This
Mhm.
song feels more like what you know what I'm saying. So like I wait until I have a good number of things to start digging through those that minefield, you know?
Yeah, is it you know, being a creative person when you're an artist for your living, the thing that really sucks, and it's nothing to be glorified or accepted, but you realize that like in the during the process of creating, like you have to care about it. You care more about the piece than anything. So naturally, all the pieces of yourself that you know are defensive and specific are kind of pieces that are not, at least for me in my life, I try to rid that out of most interactions that I have in the world. Like I'm self-conscious about them, but they all naturally have to rear their head for the sake of the project because you care so much about it and you're hard on yourself, and it can be hard on the people that you were creative with, and it's nothing to be you again, nothing to be glorified. Like it all needs to be reined in at a certain point, but it's difficult to walk that It's a really difficult line to walk because you're like, I know it's hard to feel like you're being difficult to other people, but also you're doing it because you're passionate about the thing that you're making at the same time. It's so hard. So I
Yeah,
empathize.
totally. Yeah, and it's, it's important to be conscious of that too, I know
Totally.
I do my best to be conscious of it, and
Mhm.
I do my best to not to ever, like, take my struggle with it. I wouldn't take it out on anyone else in some sort of, mean sort of way, but it's more so just
Totally.
like I'm just not a fun presence to be around. I'm not like a happy-go-lucky person at the end for that time, I take it out
Yeah.
on my the meanness I take it on that I apply to
Oh.
myself.
Oh yeah. No, I mean like but it's
Oh, I
like
know, and I know that's not what
yeah.
that's what you're getting at for sure.
It like I feel anytime I have to give someone notes, the guilt I feel.
Oh yeah,
I feel terrible for the rest of the day
yeah,
because it feels like criticism. And I don't want to be doing that. It doesn't make me feel good to say anything like, it
yeah,
sucks or
yeah,
whatever. When
yeah,
you have
yeah,
to give
yeah.
your 2 cents or it feels like it's not in alignment with the other person, it feels hard. It's I want to be I'm anti-confrontational, but like the art makes me
When you
have
believe
to
in
be.
something, yeah, when you
Yeah.
believe in something so much, whether when it comes to songwriting within our band, like we is definitely over the years have gotten really, really quite good at knowing how to talk to each other. Like
Yeah.
I think that's such an important thing within a band too, where it's like if you're writing a record or something like that, like how certain people are going to take certain types of criticism to what they've written.
Right.
So it's like you can't just be blunt and be like,
Sucks.
riff doesn't work, or like I don't like that drum part, or like that bass. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
you wouldn't do that. But what's really cool and I think maybe unique to our experience is that like when someone brings in a riff or something like that, they're bringing it in knowing full well that it's going to not ever sound like that again. Where it's like,
Mhm.
here's my idea. What should we do with this idea? And then everyone sort of throws in their thoughts and ideas and things like that. And usually it goes in a lot of ways. What's really fun though is, and I'm so happy that we have it as a dynamic, is that four of us are willing to let a song just kind of like go in a bunch of weird directions, or like maybe do something in like a strange, not so subtle time signature for a part just to get to the next part or something like that.
Right.
But Nick, the other guitar player, is like, nope, like it has to actually fundamentally make sense musically to do
Yeah.
that. And that's a clash that we often have, but I'm so glad that we have, and we could all agree that we're glad that we have that clash because it's how we end up where we are.
Right.
It's like we'll have like the four of us will have these really dumb ideas about like how a certain thing can be, but then Nick will be like, "Okay, I heard you, but like this really needs to actually be this way." And then we find the common ground, and then it ends up being what it is.
Yeah. Totally. Like which that sounds I that's the dream for me. I would love to be able I've never had a dynamic like that. Like any band that I've been in, it's usually been like I've always wanted to like walk into a room and be like, "Hey, I got this riff. What should we jam on it or whatever?" Or like anytime I've done that or whatever, we just play the riff and then that's it. And then whatever.
Can I tell
And
you something? Can I
yeah,
tell you something funny?
yeah.
As just the singer in a band, when I hear the word jam, I'm sad. I'm sad.
Yeah.
I don't wanna be in the room. I turn into a shell of myself, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, what's about to happen?" And then it's like just 10 minutes of just it's like it's
It's
a singer's nightmare. The jam
yeah.
session is a singer's nightmare because
I won't
because I
do it.
yeah, because I can't play. Like, if I had you give me a guitar and if I was competent in any capacity, then I'd be like, "All right, I'll play along with you guys." But I just like when I have nothing to do and I'm just like, I don't know what to do with myself right now.
Yeah, how do you can't jam with a singer? Or
No,
like
no,
cuz
no. I'm not Steven Tyler, you know?
yeah, you're not David Lee Roth. You can't just like be zoobity bopping through it. You can't just like
It's the
bah!
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the goal. the goal, you know?
Yeah. I mean, but I love knowing that you guys have a process and have like what it sounds like is a very respectful working environment, because
1,000%.
yeah.
Yeah, it's what I mean. We pride ourselves on knowing how we all operate personally, and like knowing how to give ourselves space, and also knowing
Mhm.
how to come together and all of that sort of stuff. I think it's why we've been together. Next year's 15 years, which is
Ah,
crazy to think about.
Mazel tov
Thank you.
to
Yeah,
bring it back.
yeah, crazy to bring it back. It all, you know what? That was all set up to drop Mazel.
Yeah, 100%. This entire episode. Jeremy, thank you for joining me, folks. Thank you for watching. We're going to be back probably next week. We haven't booked what the new episode's going to be, but whatever. We try to do this once a week. Thank you all for joining us. Jeremy, where can the people find you?
Jeremy X Bolm on most things. Follow the First Ever Podcast because I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then Touche Amore is going on tour for the rest of the year, starting in October.
Oh shit.
We're doing Europe and the UK with Coheed and Cambria and Thrice to bring it all back.
Oh, the Coheed.
And
Have you met the Coheed guys before?
I have, yeah, I have.
Yeah.
They're
Wonderful.
very sweet people. Very sweet people. Their
Very
first time
sweet.
playing shows with them though.
Okay.
And then we go from that directly to the fly to the East Coast, where we do an entire U.S. tour supporting the Menzingers with screamy females. So that'll be really cool. And that's kind of what also we're talking about, where we can tour with Coheed and Thrice, and then we can go tour with the Menzingers, because what is music?
What the fuck is music? Here's the thing. I want it all like that. It's cool that there are bands like you that can force that shit to happen, but I also want more power trip sheer mag type tours, you know? Give me that. Give me all of that. I'm absolutely coming to the Menzingers thing. That sounds fantastic.
We're doing 4 nights in New Jersey, my friend.
Oh, all right. I'll come.
Yeah. You don't got a choice.
Yeah, we'll go to